Righto, well I've got my perimeter in place with the jarrah, and so what I'm going to do now is go ahead and start laying the first few rows of the Baltic pine. So I'm going to start in that front left corner, get the boards in, get them nice and flush. I've taken 10mm off both edges of each board, and hopefully I've cut it all on the same saw with the same angle, so hopefully that'll equate to nice square joins and nice flush joins. So we'll see how we go. I'm just going to tack the boards in place at the moment, so I don't have a nail gun. I'm just going to drill and nail and work my way along. They're quite old boards, so a lot of them have got bows in them, and they're not quite straight. So I'm certainly happy with a bit of a rustic look, but I'll try and get them as straight as I can. So let's see how we go. I'm going to use a clamp just with these first ones while I've got the distance. Oh, no, just too short. For the outside perimeter, I was able to clamp them together before nailing them, and it worked out really quite handy. That's unfortunately the biggest clamp I've got, but if I had a bigger clamp I'd be able to hold that in while I nailed it, but we'll have to make do without. Okay, so here we are about halfway through laying down these floorboards. So I've got down that first row of 4 Baltic pine, got 1 jarrah in between, and then got another 2 of Baltic pine down. So I haven't actually nailed any more of these in, so it's only the first row that's nailed. I was hoping to use some clamps to come along and start getting these gaps out of here, but what I've come to realise is that due to the nature of the old floorboards, I'm going. Hey guys, down here. Just wanted to show you the progress on the floor. So this is after, well, probably 2 or 3 days of work just on this floorboard part of it. So laying down these floorboards. So as you can see, it's come up pretty well. I'm quite happy with where it's at. There's a lot of gaps. And what I found as I went was that I had a few different sized boards. They were from different batches, different thicknesses, different grooves and tongues. So it was a fairly tedious game of Tetris actually to get them all in place. Now the key and a couple of things that I really found useful, as per my previous blog, I'd put in this, with the help from a friend, put in this perimeter on 3 sides, so this jarrah. We locked that in place down the front, all across the front here, and down both of those sides, and making sure that we had that in and locked down and square was actually a really big help to putting everything in. So I've fit, we've got four rows, so we've got that initial 2 rows of the jarrah there. I've put that jarrah fascia on the front. That's just trial fitted for the time. That'll come off again, so it's just tacked on. That'll come off again to be polished, so I can lay it flat and sand it with the rest of the boards, but I just popped it on to be able to cut it down to size. So got some jarrah at the front, then 4 rows of the pine, and then 1 jarrah to break it up, and that's how I've continued along. At the back I ended up with 3 jarrah in a row, so hopefully that should look okay, because it'll be thick at the back and thick at the front with this fascia, and hopefully that'll kind of balance itself out and look good. The real key, I found a couple of things. One thing was having an electric planer was just fantastic. It meant getting this sort of surface like this, where I've just planed the tongue off one of those boards. Getting that dead flat was possible with an electric sander, and I couldn't have done that. Sorry, an electric plane, and I couldn't have done that with the table saw. I wouldn't have got that anywhere near as straight. The other thing, which was some advice I got from my good mate who came and helped me, was to make the cuts of these boards to make them square for a start. So cut all ends, because obviously they were pretty square, but I went around and cut every single end of every board to make sure I had it dead square to give me the best possible fit. So that was one thing. Make sure you got a good miter saw and cut 90 degrees every single one with the same blade, and you should get pretty good fits, which I've achieved. And the other great bit of advice was to, when you're cutting a board to length, so measure it up and then actually cut it a couple of mils long, and then try and fit it again, and if it doesn't fit, shave a millimetre off it, fit it again. But what the end point there is boards that really lock into place, so you've got to hammer them in, and they lock against one another. You've really got to force them into place. But once they're in there, what I found is that because I was forcing them in and they're in under tension, is that it would take some of the bowing out of the board, so it'd lock them all in and straighten them out as I went. None of this has been nailed in, so only the first couple of rows and this first board has been nailed in, and then at the back just to secure it as well. But in the middle, nothing's been nailed. It's all just held in there under its own tension. So by getting them to fit really perfectly and having to force them in with a hammer was the key to getting them all locked in. And then I'll go around now and I'll drill and nail. Because they're such old boards, I had a few problems with some of them cracking, particularly on the groove side. There's a couple of boards here that I've glued and then just taped in place, and I'll let that glue set. So there's a fair few lips, so you can see there's a couple of millimetre lip between this board here, which was quite warped, and the jarrah here, and between the different types of pine there's some significant lips as well. But I'm hoping with a good sand that'll bring all that down to flush. So the next step for me is going to be to hire a sander, a floor sander, and go to work on this. So there it is at this point, and I'm pretty happy with how it's gone, given that this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. I'm happy with how we're going so far, but we'll see how it turns out. Alright guys, cheers.